Hi everyone, it's great to be with all of you for this great celebration of the centenary of Chiara. I'm happy to hear on this topic that is close to the heart of everyone in the economy of communion Asia, and that is Chiara Lubich's proposal for a new economy based on love of neighbor. Now, as all of you know, COVID-19 has devastated entire economies, so much so that the World Economic Forum has called for the great reset of the global economy. Therefore, it's important for us to examine the possible foundations on which to shape a better version of the current economic system. It is therefore interesting to note that in 1759, Adam Smith, widely considered as the founding father to the present-day economic model, said this: "How selfish soever man may be supposed, there are evidently some principles in his nature which interest him in the fortune of others and render their happiness necessary to him, though he derives nothing from it except the pleasure of seeing it." Adam Smith said this in his book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, published on the 12th April, 1759. This is a lesser-known publication than The Wealth of Nations, which was published later in March 9, 1776. If the principles of Adam's book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, was more widely practiced, we will probably have a fairer economic system today. Fast forward to our time, in the pursuit of greater wealth, inspired by the wealth of nations, the current economic system is much smarter at strengthening the invisible hand of the richest among us, while denying a fair hand to the least downtrodden in our midst. It is a class system, far from Adam's hope that the economy will eventually balance itself out. Unfortunately, in truth, a more deliberate systemic change in desires and economic design is needed. Chiara Lubich, the winner of the UNESCO Peace Prize, a Catholic woman, leader of the 20th century and founder of the Focolare movement, she inspired many of us in the fields of business, politics, education, and religion, that our faith is meant to be useful instruments to overcome divisions and bring about the common good. The movement that Chiara Lubich founded when she was in her 20s during the Second World War reached Singapore in the 1990s. Encountering it changed my life as a teen and my view of the world. Singapore in those days was focused on making money and being successful. So the thought of building a shared world as a priority never crossed my mind as being possible. But what I witnessed, a community that is always welcoming to people globally, that is capable of generating generosity by loving first, helped me understand that building a united world is possible. I became generous and willing to share because of my experience with the movement. But the thing is, no one ever told me or forced me. It is a consequence of seeing and learning. To help you understand the key principle roots Chiara Lubich's proposal for the economy of communion, it will be useful to trace in brief the experience of Chiara and her friends from Trent in Italy leading to 1991, when she launched the Economy of Communion initiative. First, love of neighbor is the first step to removing the poverty of trust. During the Second World War, with all its atrocities, there was a deep lack of trust, and who could blame them? People did not have hope, as they witnessed immense horrors, even doubted God. Because of the lack of hope and trust, they hoarded instead of sharing. Hiding under bomb shelters as they reread the Gospels, Chiara and her friends first found hope by bravely believing in God, who is love, an idea they believe cannot be overcome by bombs. With this fiery optimism, this led them to love by giving away to those in need whatever they had. Surprised by this, because these were very young girls who did not show fear or look defeated, many people started to give to them so that these girls could help others. A large community of trust soon grew rapidly. Just to point out the practicality of Chiara's thoughts and actions. In the beginning, her goal was to solve the social problems in the poor region of North Italian Trent. Chiara Lubich soon learned that this loss of trust and hope in people and God was deep and permeated every level of society. So this fountain of positive humanity which Chiara and her friends had attracted scholars, politicians, religious leaders who were fascinated in this small group that seemed to be able to generate such enthusiasm for the common good and also bring a great diversity of people together. One example of this is in the 1950s, there was a large holiday camp in the Dolomite Mountains which the movement called the City of Mary, where thousands of people from Europe would come for a few days or weeks to immerse themselves in this positive energy of the common good and unity. People would share meals, rooms, and understand how this vision of a united world inspired by Jesus can work. Among them, simple workers, teachers, engineers, even politicians such as the founder of the European Union, De Gasperi. Next, you need new ways of uniting people to renew institutions. These formative experiences of being able to inspire trust and mutual love across societal classes informed Chiara Lubich. She understood the inspiration of God for her was to bring about new ways of uniting people. When the Soviets sent tanks to crush peaceful demonstrators in Hungary in 1956, her act of defiance was to launch a global group of professionals who will be inspired by the gospel to bring about peace and unity wherever they serve. When youth in the 1960s were caught up with false promises of peace and freedom, she founded a global movement for youth to go beyond selfish desires and seek to serve others for a united world. In 1966, when the tribe in Africa faced extinction and is in need of medical aid, she sent not only doctors, but introduced a new way of service that respected the dignity of the tribes. Through these initiatives, there is a characteristic that underpins the thinking of Chiara Lubich. Hers was not a feel-good movement, but one with a set of tools for unity in different situations. Because she was a teacher herself, she understood how important it is to recognize the root causes of problems before introducing new methodologies to bridge division and inequality. Third, we need innovation to be born out of love to produce human-centered solutions. As she flew over Sao Paulo in 1991, she noticed the slums surrounding Sao Paulo and she felt pain to see this crown of thorns. So she wondered if there is a new way to bridge this inequality. There in Brazil, she proposed the concept of an economy of communion, a new generation of enterprises that will not just work for themselves, but will share some of their profits to alleviate the burdens of the poor around them, to form a new people who will commit to shaping a new economic system. 29 years later, 800 enterprises of different industries in 5 continents have experimented with this concept and proved that it is possible to build an enterprise on a premise of love for neighbor and be sustainable. We can also say with certainty about the following, that beyond pursuing the end of poverty, the economy of communion seeks to build enterprises that are places of well-being, filled with trust and respect for the dignity of each and every one. Above all, the economy of communion seeks to introduce a new systemic form of innovation to solve material, relational, and institutional poverty. In 2017, Pope Francis met all of us, the global movement of the economy of communion, and he was deeply aware of Chiara's spirit. He gave us a new mandate when he said this: the economy of communion, if it wants to be faithful to its charism, must not only care for the victims, but build a system where there are ever fewer victims, where possibly there may no longer be any, as long as the economy still produces one victim and there is still a single discarded person. Communion has not yet been realized. Celebration of universal fraternity is not full. Therefore, we must work towards changing the rules of the game of the socio-economic system. Imitating the Good Samaritan of the gospel is not enough. Today, in Southeast Asia, through different enterprises and social work, the Focolare movement applies the economy of communion not just to love our brothers and sisters in need, but above all, to bring about a new humanity, and economic culture that is hopeful, capable of giving dignity to everyone. The adventure continues. Thank you.